5:45 p.m. prior to the meeting. Speakers will have one opportunity to speak during the time period, and they must observe the 3-minute time limit. If a citizen speaks during the citizen's comment period on a topic listed on the agenda, including a public hearing topic, they cannot speak again on the public hearing item. Inquiries from speakers about matters not listed on the agenda will either be directed to the staff or placed on a future agenda for council to consider. And we'll start with our first speaker, Lisa Marie Cocoletta. You'll please approach the podium and state your name for the record.
Hi, I'm Lisa Marie Cocoletta. I'm just wondering, while we're praying to a God at the top of the meeting, if we can't respect all of his human remains of all of his people. I've been asking y'all now for a couple years for a shovel test at Capes Camp. And if I'm wrong, there's not one that's required, please correct me, because I was told by city staff that that was required because it's a public improvement project. And I think it's only right that we follow state law. The reason why I keep bringing this up is because now I'm watching what's going on downtown. I think it's really funny that the TCEQ, the day that I'm asking them about collecting water samples regarding that park plume downtown, suddenly they decide to do it. It seems to me that that should have been done before they broke the ground. Now, what I'm really troubled about is where that dirt is going. Y'all know where it's going, right? They're digging up, I don't know, first of all, y'all can tell I'm kind of stuffy. I don't know if it's cedar fever or if it's flying bull's ancestor, sitting bull, his ancestor. Those are the ones that are probably down there at the Triple Crown that they're digging up. I know it's a private piece of lot and they don't have state requirement, but it's very unfortunate that we don't have a robust code. I've been going to the code rodeo, y'all, and what I've noticed is they've created this rubric where it's least likely to develop. And what I'm noting on those rubrics is that the white people cemetery get a 5, but the Native Americans get a 4. And I'm not sure why that's the case. It seems to me that downtown should be one of those least likely developed because you look at the university, y'all, they're doing a dig. I myself found bones there. So literally a straight line from that property actually across the street also, I'm waiting for the open records from TxDOT, we're building right over these ancestor, these remains. So it begs the question, is our food haunted now at the HEB, right? Is it going to be the liming or bread cemetery? I just find it absolutely disgusting that that dirt is going right there at the HEB warehouse. It seems like a more appropriate place would be somewhere else other than where our food's stored. But I want to thank city staff, specifically Lori Moyer, for having them redirect those trucks because they were all going down the historic district. And those boys, they're working hard, y'all. They're working on Sundays. So I really appreciate them diverting that through 35. The other thing I wanted to ask y'all is to consider doing a public access TV station. I know the city of Austin has it, and y'all have been awesome, the city staff, dealing with the radio station. But come on, y'all, it's 2016. And there's a lot of video bloggers here in town that would love their content online. And I'm not understanding why we have the San Marcos Minute, but we don't have opportunities for people in town to launch their content. The final thing I wanted to ask y'all is to kindly put a smart meter opt-out on the agenda. The city of Austin has a workable model. It'll take you all about 5 seconds to look that up and put it on the agenda. I applaud your idea about the $15 an hour, but I would strongly ask y'all to put some standards on that. I mean, we don't want a nuclear power plant for $15 an hour, right? Thank y'all.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Joe Patak. You'll please approach the podium and state your name for the record.
My name is Joe Patak, and I live at 505 Patricia. And I'm here to do a couple things today. First is to show appreciation and gratitude to the City Council for the efforts they've made over the last couple of years in creating a more artistic community, giving economic opportunities to our artists, and a more beautiful town through the murals and sculpture and other activities that are going on. And I'm asking your help to help support the artists our community has to offer in 2 ways. One is through developing more public access to the city's radio station, KZOS 92.5. Over the last several months, I have made a concerted effort to get programming on that station. And I have been successful on a couple of occasions, but it was very, very difficult. I'm going to be now heard weekly, and it started this week, on the radio station sponsored by the San Marcos Arts Commission, providing a schedule of artistic events in the community. And one thing that I've found through that is that there is no comprehensive list of artistic activities going on in the community, and there are a lot of them. Just today, I found out that Stellar Coffee House is having a poetry night on the third Thursday of every month. I also found out through this project that the Calaboose, the Walker Gallery, the Centro Cultural, and the Price Center are working together collaboratively on an art exhibit. And unfortunately, this information really isn't available to the community at large. By using the radio station, it will be now on a daily basis. The other issue I would like to address regarding the radio station is access to candidates. Candidates, I believe, who want to be heard on the San Marcos radio station should have that opportunity. And as a matter of fact, I'll be interviewing 2 of them on Friday, and I've scheduled some more of them down the line, which I hope will be broadcast on the station. The other issue I'd like to bring up is recognition of the artists in our community in a more respectful manner. In particular, I have to bring up the irony that I would like to end of the fact that an artist who this year received a SMART Award for his lifetime achievements in advancing art and culture in San Marcos has one of his public pieces banned in San Marcos. And I'm talking about Ralph the Cactus Planter and Scott Wade. I would urge the council to change that ordinance to allow Ralph to come back and for the creation of an artscape along I-35, which would draw the attention of passerbys to the growing artistic community in our community and really show support for the artists and the economic input they can have in our community. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Paula Hamilton. If you'll please approach the podium and state your name for the record.
Well, I'm afraid of the little light, so I had to write mine down. I'm Paula Hamilton. My husband and I have been residents of San Marcos forever. We have Tom Thumb warehouses here in San Marcos, and we live over the 5 Mile Dam at Blanco. I want to thank you for recognizing and acting to stop the zoning plans in Kyle bordering San Marcos for what some estimate could be the 3rd largest truck stop in Texas at some point. We're dealing with an investor group from far away who've tried over and over for the past 4 years to get this truck stop through. But Kyle, San Marcos, and the state really can't afford to do this. Our city's premier subdivision, Blanco Vista, with over, 1,300 homes at this point, surrounding the largest elementary school in Hays County, is threatened and seriously compromised if indeed a massive truck stop is created mere yards away. Closer still is Champions Crossing. And I want to remind you, of course I know you don't know this, that Blanco Vista is yours. It's San Marcos's premier, beautiful, beautiful subdivision that we're all proud of. There's also closer still Champions Crossing, which I like. I like to drive by the school bus when they let out all the children, and there are a lot of them. It's a low-income housing project, and it's filled with children at the ripe age for predators and long-life lung damage. There can be no doubt that truck stops draw a criminal element and foster a high crime rate and environment. But not because they choose so, I understand that. But there are so many possibilities in which transients can drive in and drive out and never be seen. A truck stop of such magnitude on so few acres, I believe, would be a definite breeding ground for crime of many sorts. No surprise, Austin, Texas is number 2 in the state for human trafficking. And by that way, I'm not only speaking about people from other countries, I'm not only talking about prostitutes, I'm talking about child trafficking, which is now considered a pandemic. In 2010, Texas led the nation in unsolved serial murders, and the FBI developed a special unit to study unsolved serial murders and began working immediately in the state of Texas. There's also now concern that massive truck stops of this size could be used to launch terrorist attacks within our country. I signed up for a few minutes. I could go on and on. What about the water quality? This group of owners attempted to cover up a natural spring, but now you can see from your own side of San Marcos, the residuals in the deep ditches along Post Road behind Champions Crossing? And what about road access? How are these people going to get through? I know. I'm just going to ask you to watch carefully, interact often with Kyle, and remember, when an item is postponed from an agenda, that does not mean it's over.
Thank you for your
Thank
comments.
you.
ma'am. Now I'll go ahead and allow Mr. Watkins to come and speak, and then I'll share just a brief update on where we're at as of today on some of those discussions. Mr. Michael Watkins, if you please state your name for the record.
Thank you. My name is Dr. Michael Watkins. I'm a cardiologist. We live in the San Marcos ETJ, and I'm wanting to speak about several issues relating to this proposed truck stop in our neighborhood. These are all public health issues. I'm not going to talk about politics. And I've been before this council before, about 2 years ago, talking about some of these same issues, and some of your faces are still familiar. First of all, in terms of public health issues, the problem with diesel exhaust is that there are very small particles in diesel exhaust that are 2.5 microns, which are very tiny little particles, which are inhaled deep into the lung and can cause lung damage. Particularly in children, the lung damage can be permanent, and if you look at children who are raised adjacent to such pollution, their lungs never mature to the degree that children who are not exposed to that sort of toxin are. So the plea from all of those who live in or near Blanco Vista, near this proposed truck stop, is to be aware that there is a serious public health problem with all the children there who play soccer at the soccer fields, who go to school at the elementary school, and so forth. These also apply to adults. For those of us who take care of cardiopulmonary patients, this sort of exhaust triggers heart attacks, triggers asthmatic attacks, triggers COPD attacks, and the incidence of death in adults with those diseases is higher in this type of environment than otherwise. So for the old people and the young people, I would plead that you consider that set of data. The second thing I'd like to talk about is water. The water from the spring there on that tract was diverted by the current owners. They filled in or tried to fill in a pond that was where the water ran into and then largely evaporated or was soaked back into the ground. They diverted that water across Yarrington Road into San Marcos property, and that water is continuously running from that stream, directed by a pipe into that bridge, or under the bridge at Yarrington Road. That water goes through the Champions crossing, or the Champions housing development there. That ditch through that area is always full of water. It empties out on Post Road, and that side of Post Road always has standing water. I asked the county public health officials 2 years ago to look into this problem. They said they saw no mosquitoes and didn't see a problem. There clearly is a problem when we have the sort of warnings in the papers today about the Zika virus, which is similar to West Nile and chikungunya virus. Those are all transmitted by the same mosquito. These are serious public health issues which we do not need in our environment. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, sir. And just to provide just a brief update, we had previously had an item on this agenda which was kind of a revisit to a resolution that had been approved by the San Marcos City Council back in October of 2013 in opposition to the utilization of the zoning in that Kyle area. That item was withdrawn from our agenda once the item that was on the Kyle City Council agenda was also removed by the applicant at the end of the business day on Friday. We chose to do the same thing on Saturday morning as withdraw item. Since then, there was a meeting that took place yesterday for a period of almost 3 hours. There's representatives from the city of San Marcos, city of Kyle, and Hays County. That meeting did take place at Kyle City Hall. A joint press release prepared by representatives from the city of San Marcos, Kyle, and Hays County will